Welcome and thank you for registering for the database webinar session. Today marks a new beginning in your quest to better yourself. My name is Tayo and I will be your guide. Before we go into the webinar session, we'd like to take a moment to go over the vision and mission statement of Providence Solutions. Providence Solutions prepares students to understand, contribute to, and also succeed in this rapidly changing IT field. We will ensure that our students develop both the skills and competency essential for success and leadership in this field. Our vision is to challenge the status quo and also impact people's life. The latter part of that vision statement is critical to impact people's life. One more note before we dive into the webinar session. Even though our training are taught virtually, they are taught by real individuals. That means the class is interactive. You have a dialogue with the instructor and also with your peers. You get to ask questions. The instructor has the ability to take over your computer, and also he or she may give you access to his or her computer as well. We just want to distinguish the webinar session from a real class training. Now we can now start the webinar session. What is a database? We have put together some questions that we think you may have at the back of your mind. The goal of this webinar session is to answer those questions, and should you have more, you can always reach out to us and we'll take time to explain what you need clarification on. What is a database? If you look at that word in of itself, you realize that you can pick two different words out of it. One is data, the other is base. Another word for data is information. Another word for base is container. So we have a container. What are we trying to do? We are trying to put information into it. What is the goal for putting information inside the container? To secure it. In addition to that, if you connect that container to the internet, that gives you the ability for, or that gives anyone that has access to it the ability to log or access the data without any geographical limitation. What do I mean by that? If the container is stored in Atlanta, Georgia, you connect that container to the internet, somebody in South Africa can access it in as much as they have the credential to log into the database. So if you now try to define it logically, you can now say a database is a repository, just a fancy name for container, repository. A database is a repository where data are stored. Simple. The next question, who uses a database? We realize that every organization that wants to operate globally uses some form of database. They cannot afford to write information into books any longer because the books is going to reside locally somewhere, say Atlanta. But what happens to those that want to access those books in Chicago or in South Carolina? They will have to travel to Atlanta for them to access it. But put those data or information in a database, connect the database to the internet, and they don't need to come to Atlanta to access it. All they need is a computer and they can access the database remotely. How critical is a database to an organization? We now have to understand that now that we have connected the database to the internet, it is susceptible to all kind of things. Hackers, those that have ill intentions, hackers as well. Those that want to sabotage the company. As a result of that, the company or the organization will do everything within its power to protect such data. Who manages the database? Those that prevent unauthorized users from accessing the database. Those that make sure the database is always available to users. Those people are called database administrators. They administer the database. They make sure those that need it always have it to use when they need it. What good is it for you to have something and when you need it, such thing is not available? Database administrators. Database administrators requirement. What does it take to be a database administrator? In addition to having your educational background, you have to go through some form of training for you to be able to administer the database. You have to be taught. You have to develop yourself. You can read the textbook from the beginning to the end. Though you understand the textbook itself, practically you cannot function because you need that hands-on experience. Is certification required for this training? Even though certification is not required, we highly recommend it. And Providence Solutions provide all the training material needed for you to obtain a certification. What does a database administrator do? That's a very, very good question. We drew a database earlier and we said data are stored inside it. Database administrator do all kind of things. Number one, they make sure the data that you store in the database are safe. They give required access to those that need it. They revoke access to those that don't. And they prevent on those that have no business logging into it, they prevent them from accessing it. Two, because it is a computer, it's just a matter of time before it breaks down, before it gets crashed. Media failure, corruption of any kind. They make sure that they back up the database, meaning they have a copy of the database somewhere else. Should that failure occur, they can restore it back. They back it up, they restore it back. 3, because it is a computer, it needs to be updated at one point or the other. So they update the database, whether it's patching or whether it's upgrading, they do that as well. Another thing that I may want to say at this stage that we are in right now, because it is computer, and as we all know, when we are using our Windows computer, we tend to believe the Windows computer is kind of slow. So what do we say? Oh, this computer is slow. What can we do to accelerate it a little bit? The customers or the clients may also be feeling the same way. So the database administrator resolve all kind of bottlenecks, whether it's I/O, CPU related, long queries, lock, contentions. I'm going too deep. So they make sure the database stays or responds in a timely manner to prevent clients or customers from getting frustrated. What is the job outlook or its sustainability? I think we are going to back this up with some data from United States Bureau of Labor Statistics. This data was retrieved on uh, was uh, was last retrieved in 2015. And as you can see, we try not to focus too much on salary, but it is critical. As you can see, an average or an entry level database administrator makes around $81,000. If you compare that, if you compare that to other professions that we are familiar with, nursing for example, an entry level or the median salary is around $67,000. Now we try not to compare and contrast other fields. That is not our goal. At the end of the day, it depends on the passion and your desire for the job. But what we're trying to highlight in this area is that, can we imagine what all these professionals have to go through for them to be able to be certified in their respective field, and also to maintain that certification? Compare and contrast that to a training a database administrator may go through, and the flexibility that comes with the job. Let's go forward. The training requirement. What do we need for this training? You will need a computer. The computer needs to be of these specifications. In addition to that as well, your 100% attendance to class is critical. And we also have labs, hands-on practical labs that must be completed. We have a bunch of them, and we will show you what we have to offer. The duration for the training is 4 months. The next start date is still being determined. Since you have registered, we will send you an email with the start date. The class meets for class training 2 times a week. Classes are held in the evening around 8 p.m. Eastern Time. In addition to the 2 weeks training, we also have a discretionary meeting. Even though it's discretionary, we highly recommend it. This is the time where we meet with the mentors to go over the labs, to make sure we are not only completing the labs, but also understand what is being communicated via the labs. And we will show you the lab as we go forward. The fee for the training is $3,000. We want to make sure that the fee does not become a barrier to any person, does not hinder individuals from developing themselves. So we have made plans for installments, which is available upon request. However, commitment fee is required for you to start the class, and that commitment fee is taken out of the tuition or the class fee or the course fee. Additional resources that we provide once you complete the training. We assist in building your resumes. We prepare you for interviews. We assist you with your certification. We also provide job references. But the most important one is the support and mentoring. Speaking of support and mentoring, there are so many institutions and so many places that claim to teach Oracle database administration. What sets us apart from any other one is the support and mentoring. We support you while you're in class. Basically, we call it a help in time of need. When you need some assistance, the mentors are there to help you out. In addition to that, we mentor you while you're at work. You don't have to pay for that. That comes standard. At this time, let's take time to navigate the website and see what the website is all about. When you type in our URL, you come across our website. If you go to the right side of the website, or you go all the way to the bottom, and you hover over these icon, it gives you the privilege of logging in to get into the website. Each user is given, or each student is given, a login credential. Once you are logged in, you see several icons. On the website, we have a messaging system where we can message other students. We can also search for other students if you know their email address, username, or first or last name. If you are currently a student, you go to the current student icon. If you've completed the 4 months training, your learning process just started. Even if you are working, we have a session for graduate students where we have other scenarios that can be helpful at work. Let's go to the current student icon. When you click on the current student, you see the course and curriculum. So now the class is divided into 2 sessions. We have the fundamental curriculum, and we also have the advanced curriculum. We have textbooks. We have mentorship program. We have some monthly evaluation that we do. It's a kind of a test that gives us the ability to understand where you are as it relates to the course, and what do we do, or which area do we need to channel resources to, so that we can understand each student as they progress. We have some computer-based training videos. In addition to that, we have some real servers that each student is going to be given access to. Let's go over the database administration fundamental curriculum. These are our weekly curriculum for the fundamental class. The fundamental class goes for 9 weeks. The first week we go over the orientation. We start from the database operating system, go into the language which is used to communicate or retrieve data or populate data into the database. That language is called Structured Query Language, or SQL. And this is the first monthly evaluation test that I referenced earlier. Then the next topic, we go over the database architecture. What goes on behind the database? When you issue a command, or when a customer issues a command, what does the database do? How does it fetch those results? Where are the results stored? If it cannot retrieve those data, what does it do? That's where we also cover the database background, or the background processes: PMON, SMON, RECO, Archiver, Log Writer, Redo-Logs, Database Writer, and so on and so forth. We also talk about the startup and shutting down of the database. Let's go through the lab part. For the fundamental class, we have 12 different labs. Take note, labs are due on a weekly basis. Introduction to SQL and the database. This lab talks about creating an operating system, creating a server and installing an operating system. This lab talks about creating a database. This one talks about OEM, Oracle Enterprise Manager. We talked about backup and recovery earlier when we're going through the slides. This show you how you're going to back up a database and recover it should there be a problem. This cover cloning, upgrade, going from one version to another. This talk about Cron talk about automating some tasks. Let's go over the advanced curriculum. This is the session for the advanced curriculum. The advanced curriculum has its own lab. We have 10 labs for that. And we also cover some weekly chapters as well. Weekly topics as well. Of course, we still have the monthly evaluation. And at the end of the training, we have a pre-employment screening. This is where we have a panel interview you to let us know, are you ready to jump into the database administration job market? The advanced curriculum covers more of our advanced materials, advanced technologies, Oracle Real Application Cluster, Golden Gate, DataGuard, automatic storage management, flashback, SQL loader, advanced security, data redaction, encryption, and so on and so forth. Going back to the home, the session which I made mention earlier for the graduates, we have some interesting materials over there as well. This is the training curriculum that covers the advanced and the fundamental. These are some exclusive labs and scenarios. They are exclusive to the graduates and those that are currently working. In addition to that, we have other advanced technologies or other areas where they may be interested in. Apart from database, we have middleware, WebLogic, and EBS. Some of the resources we have to offer, we've already mentioned some of them. We have 10 real databases that support critical applications that students are going to have access to. We have a ticketing system that we expose students to know what a real life environment is when they assign tickets. We have the latest Enterprise Manager for Oracle 13c, and we have we also have training videos that are available to users as well, which covers some of the topics that we are going to cover in class: introduction to structured query language, how to retrieve data using select statements, sorting data, preparing a database environment, creating a database, administering user security, basically creating users, database maintenance. So all of these resources are what we have available to students. At this point, we want to say thank you for taking time to go over the webinar session. We hope you enjoyed it. Should you have any question, please feel free to reach us by clicking on Contact Us page and send us an email, or feel free to reach us via phone 770-282-2532 770-282-2532. Thank you very much, and you have a wonderful day.